You can see here, the moment you get the equation in part 1, part 2 and part 3 becomes very easy, right? Now we come to this part of portion where most students will have problems with, and that's when you have proportion with an unknown k. You can't get the k because they don't give you the set of variables that you can substitute to solve for k. Now, in that kind of situation, there's other ways we can solve the problem. Okay, so look at this question here. It says x is directly proportional to y squared minus 5. So again, just form the relationship y squared minus 5. So x equals to k y squared minus 5. The next step, they say the difference in the values of x when y equals to 7 and y equals to 20 is 1053. Okay, so let's try and substitute the values in first. Okay, when y equals to 7, you substitute inside, x will be k bracket 7 squared minus 5. That will be 44k. Now, if it were to be y equals to 20, substitute in the same equation, you get x equals to k 20 squared minus 5. That will give you 395k. And now they tell you that the difference between these two is actually 1053, because they say the difference in the values of x. So all you have to do is to minus the two of them together. That will be 1053. All right, if you hit your calculator, it will be 351k equals to 1053, and k will be 1053 over 351, and there you get 3. Okay, once you get that, it's easy. You just have to substitute it back to the equation. So x equals to 3y squared minus 5. Okay, and I'd like to expand this to get 3y squared minus 15. Now, once you get the equation, then you'll be solving it as usual. Find the value of x. Find the value of x when y equals to 105. So when y equals to 105, x will be 3105 squared minus 15. Hit the calculator, you get 33060. Okay, that's how you do it. Now this one will be more common in terms of the unknown k kind of questions. Okay, and let's approach this together. It is given that a is directly proportional to b squared. So form the relationship. A is directly proportional to b squared. So a equals to kb squared. Now, next part, it is known that a equals to 40 for a particular value of b. What that value of b is, we don't know. So we just hang on first and we read on, find the value of a when this value of b is half. Now we know the change is in b. Or b used to be just a single b, now it becomes b over 2 because it's been half. Therefore, if we apply that concept or that idea into the equation earlier, kb squared will now be k, b now becomes b over 2 square. That will give you k b squared over 4. Now, if I want to make it back to the original kb squared, that will be kb squared times 1/4. Understand? Right? So now we have the same as the original kb squared here, but times 1/4. This is what the change is. That's important because with this change, you can now go on and solve for what is the new a. So find the value of a, right? When this value of b is half, we know the old a is 40. So the new a must be the old a times the change. And then the old a is 40 and the change is 1/4. That means the new a will be 10. Can you see? In this kind of scenario, we don't actually solve for k, right? Because we don't know what k is, right? But we can look at the changes that has happened when a certain variable changes, right? And then we can work out what the new variable is by taking the old variable multiply by the change. Let's look at another one. Okay, so we have here A is directly proportional to the cube root of B. Again, form the relationship. A is directly proportional to the cube root of B. So A will be equals to K cube root of B. All right, then we read on. Given that A equals to 8 for a particular value of B, again we don't know what the value of B is, just for a certain value of B. Now we calculate the value of A when this value of B is multiplied by 6. So now we know the changes in B. What used to be B will now be 6B because multiplied by 6. If we apply it inside here, what we have is K cube root of B now becomes K cube root of 6B. If I want to split it up to the original, I'll have K cube root of B here multiplied by cube root of 6. We split up the cube root, the variables inside. Okay, again, this is the change. Therefore, we can apply this to find what is the value of A now when the OA is 8 and this is the change. So the new A would be the old A times the change. Old A is 8, the change is cube root of 6. Right, hit the calculator, you get 14.54, and then 3SF will be 14.5. So that's how you deal with this kind of questions when you don't know what the K is. Right, you just have to observe the changes. Okay, so now we come to the last segment of proportion. This is what I call common sense proportion, and this segment is usually applied I usually use this method when I deal with questions that have practical applications. So if you see stuff that has x squared and or cube root of b and stuff like that, we usually use the algebra method, right? Which was what we did earlier. But in this kind of questions, like this one over here, it's a practical application of proportion. Sometimes I find that using the common sense method is a lot faster and a lot easier to do with it. So let me show you how you do the common sense method. Now, 4 men can paint a house on Monday. How many more men are needed if 15 such houses need to be painted on Tuesday? So we just draw the relationship, okay? 4 men here, so I put 4 men. Okay, then we have 1 house. Okay, on Monday that means 1 day. So this is the kind of relationship. Now, how many more men are needed if 15 such houses need to be painted on Tuesday? Now, Tuesday tells you that it's still 1 day. So this, no change. It will still be 1 day. All right. So just let me draw the arrows here. Now, the only thing that now the changes is that we have 15 houses. Okay, over here. So 1 house becomes 15 houses. So this change will be times 15. So you need to think about the relationship between men and houses. More men can paint more houses or more men can paint less houses. Okay, and the relationship, of course, if you have more men, you can paint more houses. So this is a direct kind of relationship. Therefore, the change here will be the same kind. So you multiply by 15 as well. So what you need now is 60 men, 15 houses in 1 day. Okay, so now most of the students will just say 60 men here and they call it a day. That's wrong because you have to read the question properly. They ask you for how many more men. So the additional men will be the new amount of men that we have minus the old amount of men, which is 4. So this is 56 more men. And that's how we get the answer. All right. Okay, so more common sense proportion, but I'm going to take this opportunity to show you the 2 methods. So I'm going to start this question by doing the algebra method earlier, like what we did in the early parts of this video. And then I'm going to compare with you. I'm going to show you how we do the common sense method, and then you decide for yourself which method you prefer. Okay, so let's look at the question. The time taken to graze a piece of grassland is inversely proportional to the number of sheep. So the time is inversely proportional to the number of sheep. So I form the equation KS. Then I go on and say that 29 sheep can graze a grassland completely in 36 days. So when sheep equals to 29, time equals to 36. So you form the relationship 36 equals to K over 29. K will be 36 times 29. Okay, and that will be 1044. Then you substitute back in the equation. So T equals to 1044 over S. Now, they say that if the farmer sold 7 sheep, so you can calculate the sheep left will be, originally we have 29, now we sold 7, we have 22 left. Now this, how many days would the remaining sheep take to graze the grassland? So when S equals to 22 now, you substitute it back to the equation. T equals to 1044 over 22. That will give you 47.45 days. So you round off to 47.5 days. Now this is the algebra method. I'm going to show you now the common sense method. Okay, so again, I read the question. The time taken to graze a piece of grassland is inversely proportional to the number of sheep. Okay, in this case, it's not so important here because we start from the second sentence. 29 sheep can graze a piece of grassland completely in 36 days. So 29 sheep, one grassland, 36 days. Okay, so you want to get the number of sheep now changes to 22. Okay, but it's still one grassland. So this one grassland, no change. Still be one grassland here. Right, I want to get from 29, apologies, I should have silenced my phone. Okay, so from 29 sheep, I want to get the 22 sheep. So I'll bring it down to 1 first. So 29 to 1, I get divide by 29 here. So that's 1 sheep. Now ask yourself the relationship between sheep and days. More sheep, more days, or more sheep, less days? Okay, actually, the more sheep you have, the less time you need to finish the grass. So it's an inverse relationship. So when you divide by 29 here, you multiply by 29 here. Okay, and that will give you 1044 days. Okay, now I can bring this down to 22 sheep. So multiply by 22. 1 grassland, no change. Still eating 1 grassland. So that would be 1G here. Then now I get 22 sheep. Now, if you multiply by 22 here, we already know the relationship is inverse. So it divided by 22. And what you get here is 47.5 days. Right? So number of days equals to 47.5. Right? That's the common sense method. Okay, don't worry, this may be something that's foreign to you, or maybe somebody has taught you this in school, but I'm going to show you more examples of this, okay? Okay, so last 3 questions here, A, B, and C. I'm going to show you how to do them all with the common sense method. So let's start with A. Takes 44 men 60 days to design and build the interior of 1 house. So 44 men, 60 days, 1 house. Assuming that the workers work at the same rate, how many more workers must be hired if the same house is to be completed in 12 days earlier? So this is 1 house still, no change here. Now I want to complete it 12 days earlier. That means I only want to take 48 days. So usually I will divide by 60, then times 48. But if you look at 60 to 48, if I want to get to 48 here, this is actually, if you can see, it's 4/5 of 60. You take 60 times 4 over 5, you get 48. Okay, so you multiply by 4/5. Okay, so now look at the relationship between men and days. More men take more days or more men take less days? Actually, the more men you have, the less time you need to actually build the interior, right? So in this case, it's an inverse relationship. So you divide it by 4/5. Okay. And if you keep your calculator, that will be 55 men. Now, read the question properly. How many more workers? So additional workers will be what you have now, 55 minus what you originally have, 44. That's 11 workers. Okay, that's the answer for A. Quite straightforward. If you do the common sense method, you can get the answer quite fast. Now let's look at B. 7 men can build a bridge in 15 days. So 7 men, 1 bridge, 15 days. Now the bridge was built in Y days. Okay. So Y days. So you're talking about still 1 bridge. So no change here. This will still be 1B. Now from 15 days, you want to get to Y. So what I do is I divide it by 15 first to get 1 day here. Then think about the relationship between men and days. More men, less days, or less men, more days, or more men, more days. So it's actually an inverse, it's an opposite. The more men you have, the less time you need to build the bridge. So if you divide by 15 on the right, then you multiply by 15 here. So you get 105 men. Now from one, we're still talking about 1 bridge, so no change here. This is still 1B. And then from 1 day, you want to go to Y days. So 1 to Y is actually multiplied by Y. And then if you multiply by Y, that means you divide by Y here. So you need 105 over Y men. Okay, so the number of men needed to build the bridge, men needed will be equals to 105 over Y men. That's the answer for B. Okay, now let's look at the third one. 10 bakers were assigned to bake 500 grams of cookies in 4 hours. Okay, so 10 bakers, we have 500 grams of cookies in 4 hours. Now, after baking 250 grams of cookies, 6 bakers took a rest. How long more would the remaining bakers need to finish baking the cookies? So what's the remaining cookies that we have? 250 grams. Okay, so from 500 cookies, you want to go to 250 cookies, you divide it by 2. Okay, then you can put the relationship either with bakers or hours. Okay, so it's really up to you. What I will do is I will actually change the bakers because the bakers is the one that keeps changing. So let's look at the bakers, the relationship between bakers and cookies. So the relationship is actually a direct one because the more bakers you have, the more cookies you can make. The less bakers you have, the less cookies you can bake. So this will be divided by 2 as well. And that gives me 5 bakers. Therefore, only two things change at one time. So this one we don't change. No change here. That will take you still 4 hours. Okay. So now that you're here, then you need to see, okay, the number of 6 bakers took a rest. So what I actually have is 4 bakers left. So this is actually, I need to go to 1 first to get 1 baker. Okay, there's no change in the cookies because that's what I want to get. So still 250 cookies. Now we look at the relationship between bakers and hours. The more bakers, more hours, or more bakers, less hours. So it's inverse relationship, right? So if you divide by 5 for the bakers, you must multiply by 5 here. So that will give you 20 hours. So 1 baker will take 250 bake 250 grams of cookies in 20 hours. So now we have 4 bakers here. So we multiply by 4. Still no change for cookies because that's what we want to get. Then we look at the time. So you multiply by the number of bakers, you multiply by 4, then you must divide by 4 here. So that's your answer. You need time is 5 hours. Okay, time equals to 5 hours here. All right, so that brings us to the end of the chapter on proportion. I hope my explanations have been helpful for you to understand how to approach this chapter. Again, most students will have no problems with the easy parts where they give you both the variables and to find k. The problem that you actually will face, or some students will face, is when you have an unknown k. That's where you need to observe the changes. Okay, when one variable changes by in a certain manner, how does it affect the changes with the others? Right, and also I introduced to you a common sense proportion, which is what I feel is a easier way to deal with real life applications. So I hope this video was useful for you. Thank you for watching the O-level EMath videos on proportion run by Studium. If you have any issues that you need to clarify that you're not sure of, you can always book a private or group session with us. All right. As usual, before I sign off, play the video, look at the questions when it's blank, attempt the questions yourself. Once you're done, check with the answers and make sure you can do these questions. Right? If you need more practice, just flip open any assessment book. Okay, see you in the next video.